my guest, my special guest, Mr. Rao. Are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, fantastic. First, I must let you know one important thing. That is, it is such a pleasure and honor to have you here with us today, Mr. Rao. And I would like to formally introduce to you. This is Mr. K.V. Rao with us today as our special guest. He's the Resident Director of ASEAN TATA Group and the President of the Singapore Indian Fine Arts Society. So welcome, Mr. Rao. Now, although you have been a very significant figure in the corporate world, of course, but today's focus will be more on your creative, aesthetic, artistic aspect, which is a very beautiful one indeed, right? And we're going to focus more on that side of you. So in order to focus on that side, I thought we should start from Pondicherry, where, which is very special to you, right, in your life and in many people's lives, of course, including mine. But please, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your cultural background, and just your journey in the arts, and your involvement and interest in the arts since your birth?
Oh, that's very interesting. Actually, this is a world that I perhaps belong to, but I ended up on a different road in my life and career. You triggered Pondicherry, so that's a beautiful place. I think everyone should. We've got some artistic inclinations. Pondicherry is a place which rings magic. It's an old French colonial town, and we have Sri Aurobindo Ashram there. And I grew up in the ashram from the age of 3.
Okay.
I went to the school, International Center of Education, and had an eclectic mix of a French medium and speaking Hindi outside and Bengali and living in a Tamil environment. And I'm born Telugu, so all of this made one, really it was a cultural explosion of sorts. And
yes, yeah.
And I'll just touch upon one aspect, because education is so important and is so abused as well, in the sense, I'm using a strong word. Up in our life about what is education meant to be. In fact, the spiritual or the more meaningful aspect, education should bring the best out of you as a human. And what it brings out of you is not just one aspect, which is money, how successful you are in making money, or how successful you are in a profession, but it is to be able to bring out all that you come into this world with, the inherent qualities which are there within us.
Right.
Now, when I was observing all these wonderful ladies, I'm sure they're professionals, their mothers, their wives, their sisters, and so on, and their whole life. But when they're talking about art, and when you get into art and or music or any creative form, it's a very interesting thing that happens to you. When we are working and when we are living, even when you are doing your daily routines, your mind is wavering all over the place. It's very difficult to keep your mind controlled.
Yes.
And we talk about something like meditation and all that, that it will do you good, so you should meditate, it will do stress relieving. Even COVID times, people say, learn how to do meditation and so on. But those people who are into the journey of painting, art, music, dance, writing, these are things which alter the state of your consciousness.
Yes.
You're completely cut off with the world, and you get into your own world. And when I see all the ladies beautifully saying that I like texture, I like this color, I do this, actually what they're saying and what they come out is only a physical form of what they're doing. But it's a journey of their own, of how much they enjoy and how much forget themselves. So, what is happiness? Happiness is about a state where you actually forget yourself, right? So when I was a child, I was exposed to a lot of this in that unusual school, which didn't believe that our exams are important. So I never had an exam till I was 16 or something like that.
Oh,
I
super.
never had any course curriculum. So I could go to teachers for resources, and if you like to do, let's say, painting 8 hours, you can do painting in the school and nobody questions you why you didn't do English language and
I'm
mathematics.
sorry, what school is this, Mr. Rao?
Shibindo's International Center of Education in Pondicherry. It was set up
Okay.
around the 1930s. They take very few people. But what happens is, instead of people taking one subject, you end up taking a lot of subjects because you want to explore the world. And then you can drop it, you can pick it. So it's what's called the free progress system. So the two things that I got very interested in my childhood was actually art and music. Music continued for a long time till I got into my corporate world. And then after I started my corporate career, which was 40 years ago, and I'm 60 now. So I run companies, I chair board meetings, and that's my kind of world that I move in. There is always this desire to appreciate music and art. And I had given up. I used to perform. I was a percussionist. I'd learned for many years tabla and all. I gave up many years ago. I can just do some basic stuff now. And as time passed by, I was just getting involved in listening more, watching more, reading more kind of things. And that brought me to doing what I do. You know, I spend a lot of time in community. I love Singapore Indian Fine Arts Society and so on. So this is a long answer to a very short question. I'd like to close.
No. That's the way it should be, actually.
It's a very nice one. I don't know how many of our viewers here would actually know this company called Alibaba. You know, you've heard of Alibaba.
Yes.
One of the world's richest men, I think he's about 40 billion or something, is Jack Ma. And about a year back, I had this unique opportunity to have a lunch with him, a small group of people under the, you know, Fortune CEO conference or something. Very interesting discussion. So he says that I've stopped now anything to do with business. I'm spending all my time setting up kindergartens and schools. So I said, what is it that triggered you to do this? He says, education is completely wrong. And he's a very interesting style of talking where he speaks with very few words, but very, very impactful. And he says, intelligence is useless because artificial intelligence will come and take over the world. Mathematics, no need, machine will take it over. Science, he says there is enough of knowledge fund and there are people who are doing it. So that's not what we need. So he says, I've created schools where we just do two things. All children till they're 10, they are taught music and art. So I said, how does this make a better world? So he said, music opens your soul and you become a better human being. And he says, second thing he said is, art is actually like opening an umbrella. And the mind is like a shut, like a closed umbrella. He says it opens your creative faculties and it opens you so much to a completely new world. All the creative parts come, and when you get a new race of people, as it were, with these kind of qualities, I think we can expect a better world than we are stuck with right now. So I do believe we need to do more on education. So I enjoy my work in fine arts, Singapore Fine Arts. We have about 2,250 people registered and taking courses there. And it's for everybody. And I'll imagine, you know, many of you will go and take a look at sifas.org, which is our website.
Yes, please, of course, yeah.
If I may, I'll just finish this by saying this, that the best part is we used to have students who are 80 years of age, 81, and then unfortunately passed away, but he was a student. And we have currently up from 6 years onwards. So you will see these mothers and sons and fathers and daughters coming
and
together.
Grandpas.
You know, one goes into a kathak class, the other goes for a painting class, a whole family. So it's such a lovely thing I see on Sundays and Saturdays.
Beautiful.
So I invite you all to come and take a look at that place. And these are the kind of things I think that will bring us so much inner joy and so much satisfaction. And it's very, very important that, we must all have some color. There is that saying in the Indian spiritual tradition says, what distinguishes a human being with a pashu, which means an animal, is basically an appreciation and an orientation to art and music. So if you didn't have the creative dimension, then you are a very smart guy, but that's what you are. That's it. So lovely.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. Sorry, I was adding on to you. That's why I said that's it. Not that's it to your question. I mean, not that's it to your answer. Please continue if you would like to elaborate. Is there anything? Did I stop you? Sorry.
Yeah, you can ask me something more. I've told you about.
Yes, of course. Actually, you've made a very pertinent point here with regards to art education or education in general, because there are a few other countries who are making creating waves in this regard, in the regard that you had mentioned about focusing more on lots of play, because play is also a very important education for children until the age of 10 or so. Of course, lifelong play is important in a lifelong manner, but more than exams and academic pursuits, play is something that involves both music and art and any creative element. Play is creativity at the end of the day. So so it really struck me actually, and I was wondering, you were mentioning about SIFAS actually, and of course you play a very important role in SIFAS as the president. And could you tell us a little bit about the kind of causes that SIFAS has been conducting and how it has evolved throughout the past few years? Is that something that you could share with us, please?
Good. I think that's a lovely question. I'd love to expand a little bit more. Let me spend a couple of minutes with you on the history.
Sure.
I suppose the majority of the participants are also from Singapore. In the Singapore history, we are in the 201 years of Indians having come here. So the history is about 200 years old of Tamils who have actually landed here. This year is 2001, actually, 200 completed. So this institution is 72 years old. So initially, those people who came from India, they packaged the culture and came with it. See, we all bring our cultures with us. So it started more because the girls in the houses in South India, before they get married, they have to perform a veena or a dance or a song.
Yeah, yes.
That story of what the girl has to do, what the guy doesn't have to do, I don't know. They never ask a guy, why can you show me how to play mridangam?
Yeah, indeed. That's a very valuable thing to look into. Yeah.
It starts with a perforce, it's perforce. But then it's a good thing because most South Indians do start with it. And then again, people who come from Eastern India, it's still strong. You're Bengali, and I'm sure there will be a few of them. And I grew up in that environment. Having a Bengali and not knowing poetry or art or music or an instrument is an anathema. I mean, it's just counterintuitive. So some parts of the people around the world, they'll come. And they started this, and it grew for 72 years, as I said. It's massive. It's perhaps the biggest institution around the world dedicated to Indian classical arts and music. So we have 16 faculties. So we have dance faculties, which are from Bharatanatyam to Kuchipudi and Kathak and all the 600-700 people learning dance at all ages, and women of all ages.
Awesome.
There are a couple of men as well who do it. It's lovely. Then we have the Carnatic section, which has got the instruments, which is percussion instruments, veena, violin, then vocal. Similarly, in the Hindustani, we started with sitar, then tabla, then vocal, harmonium, keyboard. But all of these, we have a certain emphasis on teaching it in a classical way so that the basics are well and ground, entrenched, and then the students, as they grow, they can do what they like later. We don't use what I call mixed media. We are classical, in your comments.
I understand, of course.
And about 2004, that was 16 years ago, I remember I was still in the committee then. I always believe arts are interconnected and interrelated. It's not that a person who's artistically oriented is just good for one. You know, you will have,
Yes.
if you are a painter or an artist, you will be able to work with pottery. You can work with clay. You will naturally be able to work with dance.
Mm-hmm.
And your ears will be inner ear, if not the outer. The inner ear will play to the music. So these
Yes.
are all things which flow together. And to me, it's not independent. You know, it's this whole world, which is the other world. Huh? So they said this is only music and dance. How can you start art? And there are so many art schools. We fought for it, and we said no, we will start that. And today we have nearly 200 teachers, 200 students, and 2 full-time teachers. And they do the whole. They teach you some basics. Then they teach you classical Indian formats. You know, they do charcoal, they do watercolors, acrylics, Tanjore, Madhubani, Kalamkari, all the stuff that they do because people want to learn something. So the teachers we have are regular teachers. You can come once a week, you can come once in 10 days. Very customer oriented. I mean, depending on how you want. Best part is different generations. The parents and children come together, and that's beautiful to see sometimes
Yes,
pairs of
absolutely.
brother sisters coming and then doing it. Now, what I was just saying, and I was talking to Vidya the other day, very often many institutions and people work only in their space. You know, I am a violinist. I will do violin. Or I am a performing artist and I'll only do performings, whether it's a dance or a drama or whatever. But actually speaking, there have been some experiments which are brilliant. You bring all of them together and put them on the stage. You know, it's fantastic. When somebody is dancing, somebody is painting, and somebody is playing a rhythm, you know, I tell you this, I've attended some of them. One of the early ones, when I was just chatting with, I think, Vidya, I mentioned about, you know, the famous artist in India who died, of course, Emma Hussain. He was in terrible love at his 90 years. He was obsessed about this woman who was a dancer, I mean, film actress. That is
Madhuri, yes, yes.
Madhuri
Madhuri,
Dixit.
yes.
Madhuri Dixit series.
Yes.
And then I went on to get on the stage and then they did it together and some of it. So it's something which is very, very interesting. So we should breach the barriers in which a certain form of art or a certain form of music is and try something new. You know, it'll be very, very wonderful.
You know, you're
Last,
talking about dance, and I feel like I'm watching you dance as you talk. So you
I
have that in you already.
and I'd like to invite all those people who are here just to come in and walk into our institute, take a look at it. It's an old school building. It's to a Starlight Road. Just get that whole spirit, you know. I mean, if an artist is going to sit there and watch a bunch of young 16-year-old girls practicing a dance format, it's just very inspiring. It's so satisfying because this is not what we see, you know. We see them hanging out as a group in Orchard Road in some mall and having a good time. But when you see them in traditional Indian dress and they're practicing, it's such a delightful experience.
And you know, I personally enjoy attending arangetrams. You know,
Very
Bharatanatyam arangetrams. It's like the energy, fresh talent displaying what he or she has got to the audience with such dedication and commitment. You know, so attending an arangetram is always special for me. How about yourself, Mr. Rao? Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story of Arangetram, if you permit me for a couple of
Please,
minutes.
please do.
The story of Arangetram again is a very South Indian psyche. See, I'm sorry,
I,
I'm born a South Indian, but I'm
no,
all
please
over.
share your viewpoint. I would love to hear that. Yes.
As much a North Indian as a South, but you know,
Right.
this obsession around, there is a good positive side, there is a certain historical perspective about what is Arangetram. Arangetram started as basically the first public performance or coming of age of a student who has been trained for a number of years. So you start at age of 6 or 5, you do 10 years of training, then you're typically 16 or 17, and then you're presented to the world. And that Arangetram is a gateway to performance. Basically, that's what it means. Arangetram is a gateway to
Yes.
performance. And in traditional South Indian families, this was a precursor to the marriage, again, for some reason. Okay. this was presenting the daughter who's now been well trained, and let the
Yeah,
whole
she's a commodity. She becomes a commodity. Yes.
a temple or something like that, and the guru comes, and then the whole village talks about, oh, how nicely she performed, and then the relatives come to know, and so on. So this was like a staging of a show is basically what an arangetram is all
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
Today, arangetrams have become like mini weddings, and there are 1,000 people invited at times, and they're fed a great meal, and it's a good time. It's a very good target in some sense. For instance,
Yes.
you can take arangetram and put it into your art form. I've never seen an art arangetram, right? So let's say a budding artist who's never had a show ever in their life, putting up their first show is actually a visual arangetram.
Absolutely. Yes. That's true.
And it should be performed, and it should be conceived and executed in a manner where it becomes a very memorable milestone in one's life. So that's what
Yeah.
Arangetram is about. I love going to Arangetrams because you see young talent coming up and how well they're doing. But you know, if you're more musically inclined and you become more technical, like you're facilitating artists, when they sit and see an art show, they see the technical side more. How did they do this? How did they do that? So if you are more a common person who appreciates art, you will enjoy it. But if you go a little bit more technical, then you start seeing, okay,
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
then you come back and say, why did they do this Arangetram so soon? She was not yet ready, or he was not
Yeah.
yet ready.
Yeah. Yeah. The stamina is not enough, or she could have practiced more. But it's never ending, isn't it, Mr. Rao? One can keep on
Lifelong.
critiquing and criticizing. So it's not only the debut for the dancer in performance, but it's also the debut for criticism in the
That's true.
public eye.
Right.
And thankfully, the context has changed, isn't it, Mr. Rao? I mean, thankfully, it's not to indirectly say that, yeah, she's ready for marriage. Thank
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Well, you've made a wonderful point, a very social, historical point of view, and I appreciate that. Beautiful, beautiful answer, Mr. Rao. And I wanted to actually move on to something with regards to the guest artists that you invite, the guest dancers, guest musicians that you invite have always been a well thought out, professional and informed choice, right? And for example, me and my husband, we have visited some performances, some demonstrations dance by researchers who also dance, and so on and so forth. Could you just share with us a little bit about SIFA's contribution to this scenario in choosing guest performers or guest artists to visit Singapore and present their offerings to the audience here?
I think in a year, typically, we have, music and dance is a performing art. So is actually visual art. When you do a painting and just hang it on a wall, it is not a lifeless thing. It is actually performing on the wall, continuously.
Beautiful.
Let's be
Very
clear.
well said. Yeah.
So, every painting is a breathing thing which is trying to tell you something. Only if you care to watch and listen to what it's trying to tell you, not just see, but also listen. But there is a certain verb, there is a certain movement, there is a certain physics, there is a certain element of action in every piece which you really put on the art as well, except that it is one-dimensional shot of a certain point in time. So learning any art without being able to perform is just for yourself, right? You have to paint, you got to
Yes.
put it, otherwise you just hang it at home or you just keep it to yourself, it's of no use. So every art institution tries to create performance opportunities for its own students and its own teachers. So we have about 30 Indian top class teachers who come and teach here full time. They live there. They're all very highly trained teachers. They also need space to perform. Their students need an opportunity to perform. Plus, we also need to give an opportunity to bring the best out of the world to Singapore. So they see them perform, they get to meet them. We have master classes so that there is a certain mix and they learn out of this. So this is the background. So we have about 200 shows in a year.
Mm. That's
So
quite massive.
out of the 200, we normally have an annual festival of music and dance, which we started about almost 20 years ago. It's a very 18 years ago. It's a very well conceived. So we have 5 top tier artists, globally famous people who will invite. So 5 nights, which will happen at Victoria Theatre and Esplanade and so on. And then we have about 50 to 60 local artists perform every day, morning to evening. Slots are there. It's like a festival. And we have about another 50 odd who are not associated with us, but who come to perform here from outside, from Singapore and all that. So we have roughly about 110 odd performances that happen in the festival alone. And it's a great time. And what we started doing is we started exhibiting the paintings as well on the walls, and then putting some food there and making it look like an Indian, really like an Indian
a carnival. Yes.
So people come in the mornings, and on weekends it's phenomenal. We were supposed to have it, but thanks to COVID, we had to push it away. Hopefully we'll do it in October or November. We do not know. But these are times for artistic people to come forward and spend a day there, and we could do a lot of very interesting things. So
perhaps we could do a tour. You could give us a tour.
Oh yeah,
of,
most welcome.
Of SIFAS campus.
The moment it opens, we'll give you an invitation to all your artists. Whoever wants to can come. We'll be very happy to host you to a nice program, and we'll also put some music in there. No problem. We'll
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We have to take this. It is recorded, Mr. Ram. It is a recorded promise.
Hey, bring all your artists who want to come with the easels. We will arrange a performance, and we want to see you perform with your own paintings at the same time.
Super. Wonderful. It has been so enriching, Mr. Rao. Seriously, I would like to focus on your creative being. You being a tabla, a percussionist, a tabla player, if I'm not mistaken. Is it tabla that you play, Mr. Rao?
I used to, but I've given up about almost 45 years now, no regular practice. So I can just practice. I can just play a bit, but I do understand music, and I enjoy listening. My ear is more trained to Hindustani classical music. So that's what I do, but I'm not into really any performance now. I'm not in good shape.
Okay, but no, it would be lovely if you could one fine day, do that to continue that God-given talent, Mr. Rao. And I really hope that you will pursue it. I mean, there's no age for the arts, right? I mean, no, that would be lovely. Yeah, if you could pursue it one day, one fine day. Maybe I should have asked you to. No, I should have requested you to play some tabla during this interview, but I missed the chance. I should have thought about it. Should have planned it earlier.
Sometime later, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Rao, for giving me your precious and valuable time.
Very good.
Sorry?
Thank you. I'm happy to talk to anyone who has anything to ask me.
Yes, yeah. Thank you once again, Mr. Rao. A formal vanakkam, Nandri vanakkam for you.
Nandri vanakkam.